Good morning, Dan Delmar in for Elias today and tomorrow. Time for In Transit, and we take to the skies now. Is it time to break Montreal-Trudeau's grip on international flights? Time to allow international carriers even into the airline business here in Canada. Joining me is airline industry observer and professor of business at the Desautels Faculty of Management at McGill, Mr. Karl Moore. Hello, sir.
Good morning, Dan.
How are you?
Not too bad, and yourself?
Excellent. Nice to talk to you again. Is this a good idea, Karl? Have you been wanting this for many years, more competition in Canada's airline space?
It's a mixed story. When you look at it, there's a fair bit of competition, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, maybe Calgary. These are attractive destinations with a lot of flights. Now, on the other hand, most other cities are underserved, and they're very expensive, but they're not attractive to foreign competitors. These are two small markets. And so it's something what we've seen the last while is that WestJet's pulled back to Western Canada. And for my radio show, The CEO Series, I sat down with the newish CEO of WestJet about that, and he came over from working Lufthansa, brought a different view to it, and they focus more in the West. And Air Canada is responding to that, focused a bit more in the East, though Air Canada is across the country. So if anything, the ones that are underserved are the cities other than Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, maybe Calgary. That's where the biggest problem probably is, and foreigners are not going to serve them. What the biggest problem is, Dan, I think, and I wrote a report with a colleague of mine, John, for the Senate earlier this year, is the high cost of fees that are paid when you buy a ticket in Canada. They're much higher than the U.S. or Europe. And it's something where in those other countries, the government largely takes on those costs. Where in Canada, they've been pushed onto the shoulders of the flyers like you and I.
Now, most certainly economists to the right or to the libertarian side would say that, well, most people would say that competition is the way to bring down those prices, right? But not necessarily so simple.
Well, competition is a good thing. You know, as a business prof, I like competition, and it's central to the way our economy runs in its better moments for sure. But here, the biggest problem seems to be the government putting costs on the shoulders of Canadians rather than taking that burden as it does in most other of the countries we compare ourselves to. Seems to be one of the bigger issues that we really should address. In competition, we already have where you can fly from Montreal on BA, on Lufthansa, on a number of airlines to Europe and to Asia and so on, out of Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver, where there is competition in the big cities and to those countries. That seems to be relatively working. So I think the report made some good points, but there was often a couple really important issues.
What about the airports? Do you think it would be good for the regional market to open up Saint-Hubert and give them a chance to accept more flights, more and larger flights?
Yeah, I think so. I'd like something where there used to be, you may be old enough to remember Maribel.
Of course, yeah.
You know, but it's been largely shut down now. It's used by Bombardier and Airbus for flights and so on, and that's great. Mirabel, Airbus is up there. And probably why the A220, probably the best plane in the world, founded by Bombardier but now run by Airbus, is there because there's a great airport there, which is tremendously underused. But Mirabel is a long way from Montreal, where what I love about Dorval is that I get out of the airport, get in a car, taxi, and I'm at my house in 13 to 14 minutes. So when you think about it, that is a great location compared to Pearson in Toronto or some of the airports in New York and LA and other big cities. So, but some competition would be great for people in the South Shore. Now, Plattsburgh, if you've ever been down there, has a sign at the airport, Montreal's U.S. airport. And that's because the biggest city in the area is by far Montreal. A lot of people come from upstate New York to Montreal to shop. But it also goes the other way. A lot of people south of Montreal would go to Plattsburgh for cheap flights, but also it's not that much of a further drive as opposed to going all the way to Montreal-Dorval. So I think a airport down there running some flights is probably a good idea and would be a helpful competition, which I think would add to the mix.
I do admire Toronto a little bit for their mix, their airport mix. They have the City Island Airport, which is great for sort of short hop, low distance flights between Canada or regional, I guess. And then you have Pearson, which is off a distance away for the bigger jumbo jets and all of that. I do wonder whether or not Saint Hubert could have that dynamic where you kind of hop off the plane and just stroll right into downtown and go to your meeting.
Well, it's not that close to downtown. Where the Island Airport, when I go downtown Toronto, I generally want to be in the financial district, and it's in the heart of the beast. Like you get off the Island Airport, and now you can literally walk in a tunnel. It used to have a short ferry, the world's shortest ferry, 7 years ago. But now you walk through a tunnel. It's you can walk faster. It's electric sidewalk, moving sidewalk as well, and you get into a bus or a cab, and you're at the Royal York. You're right in the heart of the beast, where you want to be. Now, VIA also takes you to the Union Station. Just takes longer to get there. But I love the Island Airport for that convenience. And it's, Chicago as well, but also mainly Canadian flights. But that's been a real boon for Porter, though they're getting newer planes, which are bigger, that can't land at the Island Airport. So they're starting to do more out of Pearson as well.
Okay, I was going to say part of Porter's service there to the Island Airport must be helpful to the regional economy. I remember just seeing the prices on Porter to Island Airport versus via rail versus just driving to Toronto and spending the money on gas. And often the short hop to Toronto Island would be the cheapest option.
Well, now, the other thing which is interesting, if you've ran into, Dan, is that there's now a train from Pearson to Union Station, which is frequent. It's 22 minutes, and you don't have to worry about traffic or, weather, things like that, because it's got its own rails, brand new rails. That's a nice option where I've taken from Pearson, and it's taken a little bit of the advantage of the Billy Bishop Airport away, because it gets you right in Union Station where you want to be. So that train from Pearson is a nice option for Montrealers to think about.
Mm-hmm. So, generally speaking, do you think is this a sign that there's an idea being floated by the Competition Bureau that is this a sign the government might be heading in that direction, or at least considering it?
I think so. They're clearly considering it. Now, this is something which is part of the government, but it's not the elected government, which the Parliament and so on and the Cabinet decides. But I take it as a good part of advancing the conversation in Canada, which I think it's timely that we advance it.
Karl Moore, professor in the Desautels Faculty of Management at McGill University. Thanks so much, Karl.